Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. So this is going to be a different kind of video, and it's got some gameplay in the background. It's got a couple of replays that I have recorded over the last couple of years where I've got ace replays. So I'm just going to let that play in the background, but I suppose the whole point of this video is really to talk about filling the void, and that's what I've titled this particular video. So many people might be aware of the situation that occurred with Droodel's Blitz and his royal fatness, and really the void that is being left in the community because of those two people. They've decided or been forced to end their content and stop producing content. So I'm not going to talk about their individual cases, but I am going to talk about, I suppose, the vacuum or the hole and the void that's been left with those two people and how they've left YouTube and I suppose left community in general. For the purpose of this video, when I talk about community, I talk about the people who play this game and the people who create content around it. And Droodles and his royal fatness produced some very good content that was really, really good for people to learn the game. Okay, so nobody's going to debate that. I have seen a bit of a shift in the community where I've noticed a lot of new people that are starting their own YouTube channels that are just starting to create content and media around this particular game. I just wanted to talk about that, maybe just to give some tips. I wouldn't say that this YouTube channel is very popular. It's non-monetized. It's more of a hobby for me than anything else. I need to stop giving excuses, but for me, it's I think it's important to put content out there, and hopefully you're creating content where, you know, you're helping people be either better at the game or be better at just give them ideas. Like that, the power of that is very, very powerful. So I've got a script here in the background that I want to talk through. And I've just got some tips on what I think people can do and how they can contribute to this community. So for the first part of this video, the replays are going to be broken up, and I apologize for the break in the replay. But I wanted to talk about the various different forms of media that are out there around this game and that can exist around this game. Because a lot of people think about content and they automatically think, hey, YouTube, I have to be on YouTube. And that's far from the case. And I want to point out how that is. On your screen right now, so yes, you can see a Reddit post that I actually created a while back. Now, the title is a little bit provocative. Obviously, it was at a time when news was breaking out about what Droodles did. I'm not going to talk about it. But the point of this post was to maybe highlight or draw some attention on other YouTubers that are out there that I think deserve an audience, that produce very, very good content. And I listed out a number of various different YouTubers and linked their YouTube channel in this post. Now, bear in mind, the point was that it's not only YouTube that could be used to create content on this game today, and the irony of me pointing out YouTubers, I know. But these are, what I wanted to do was really draw some attention on some of the smaller YouTubers. This was quite a popular post. There was a lot of people responding and commenting on this one. And, you know, given their experience with various different YouTubers and who they wanted to recommend. So I've been actually editing this post and adding the links for their channels. So you can see on this particular post, I am going to link it in the video. I'm going to give the link to this particular post, but I do find myself seeing updates to this post and providing links for any suggestions of good YouTubers that are out there. So I wanted to just point that out. I will link it, like I said, in the video. If you want to have a look at that post, or even if you're looking for other channels to follow, here's a list of other channels. Originally, like I said, I was trying to point out some of the smaller YouTubers and help them grow, because that's the nature of the community. Not to blow my own trumpet, but I think that's very, very important when it comes to the community today. Like I said, other forms of media in addition to YouTube, and I don't know if anybody ever remembers podcasts. There were multiple various different podcasts in the past where people created content. It was audible content, but it was content on the game. Some examples of these are the Tank Boom podcast. I don't know if anybody remembers this particular podcast. They created, I think it was Left Turn and Low Keen, I think were two people who played the game and created a content. And most of the time, I think they had a podcast almost every week when the podcast was very popular. You can see this is their actual podcast. Now, the RSS feeds have been broken. These two guys, they probably stopped paying for a podcast host. And I don't know if you can hear the podcast today on your your podcast catcher of choice, but you can see that this was a very popular podcast. They created 98 different episodes. Like, that's a lot of dedication towards the game. I think this existed back in 2016, 2017. I used to be an avid listener of this particular podcast. There's another podcast called Blitz Humble Beginnings or Humble Beginnings. It's a bit of a strange name for a podcast, but this is a podcast that came out years after Tank Boom. And you can see the various different episodes and even the length of the episodes. And these were just conversations. So you can see that this first came out in 2020 and they ran all the way to, well, 2020, a couple of months later. They only had a limited number of episodes, but like even now, I find myself listening to some of those podcasts and just listening to what they were talking about as an idea. If anybody's actually interested in creating podcasts, like that's a great template to revise, and it can be tweaked, and people can create their own podcasts, as did this guy do. Ushkan Blitz. Ushkan Blitz had his own podcast for a limited time. It wasn't, I don't know if he got the numbers that he wanted for it, but he created some really good podcasts and he had some interesting guests on his podcasts where he would just talk about the game, talk about various different aspects of the game, what was new, what was coming, experiences from the past. That's all really, really good content in my eyes, and I really, really enjoy it. This is another podcast actually I came across when I was doing the research for this particular video called Squid Talk. I found it in my podcast catcher. I only just subscribed, so I can't really talk about it, but you can see that there is some content here. This was created back in 2021. I don't know if these guys are still active or they're still playing the game. Obviously, people move on, different things happen, but that's a podcast that I found while I was doing some research for this particular video. Podcasts aren't the only thing. And I don't know if anybody remembers blogs or reading blogs like this. This is a WordPress site from IrmaBecx. And I don't know if anybody's familiar with IrmaBecx, but he, she, they, them used to produce a blog where they used to basically give a text summary of their experience with certain tanks and playing the game. And this is brilliant. You can see there's a whole library of different articles here about different tanks. And this was a really popular way of digesting information about the game. And these, when they were drafted, you could get them delivered to your email address. And you could read about some of the tanks that you might be playing in the game. And this was great content, absolutely great content. Similarly, this site here called the Daily Bounce.net. It uses WordPress as well, and you can see that this covers World of Tanks content. I think this is more specifically towards the actual PC game, and it also covers World of Warships. But this is a site that has been around for quite some time. I don't know if it's still quite as active as it used to be. You can see the last few posts seem to be just on the December Christmas patch. But as you can see, there's another site that was hosted based on World of Tanks and World of Tanks content. Just to move on to the final point of this topic, and I wanted to draw attention to a particular YouTube channel and something that he used to do that I was very, very fond of. This is Fugit Blitz. Now, I don't know if anybody remembers Fugits. I don't know if he's as active as he was in the past, but Fugits used to have this thing on his YouTube channel where he would have a coffee chat. And a coffee chat was something very specific where usually on a Saturday it was, what he would do is he would live stream particular replays on his channel. And while he was live streaming these particular replays, he used to jump on Discord and engage with his community on Discord. So if you were part of Fugit's Discord channel and you had something to say maybe about the game or just to talk, just to chat to a very small group of people, like-minded people who are all interested in playing the game, I just thought that was a brilliant form on how to engage with people and how to kind of create a conversation around the game. Um, it's a very small interest group, of course. I don't know how you'd be able to scale something like that if it got a lot of attention. But the size of the little sessions that he has to used to have was really, really good and very, very encouraging. And the fact that it was then later available to view on YouTube, as like a community conversation around the game, I thought it was brilliant. And I really I'm surprised nobody else has kind of taken up that form of engagement. And we're back to the replay. Sorry about that. The point that I was making there is that while YouTube has become the default way of creating media for this community, it's not the only way of creating content for the community. And it's something to maybe bear in mind. I would love to see a return to form for other types of media creation and different ideas of getting your views and opinions out there other than YouTube. That concludes the first point that I was making around your exploration of other forms of content. The second point that I want to make is all about pacing and pacing yourself. I think it's super important to plan in advance. So obviously be thinking about what you want to base your content on. Pick a simple schedule and something that you can commit to and stick to it. So this is super important. So this is all about building cadence. So if you plan to create content for maybe one time a week and release it one time a week, then stick to that. Cadence will bring people back. So as well as the content that you're creating and maybe whatever you're creating that helps people learn about the game, your cadence is actually super important to also make sure that people come back. So if you were to aim for maybe the creation of a video a week, make sure you stick to that. And also, in addition to that as well, just I suppose the importance of taking time off if and when needed. So if there's some personal circumstance that arises that you are able to have time off and that you communicate that with your audience. What I would say as well, just starting off YouTube or starting any kind of content creation, I would avoid monetization and I would aim for organic growth. So focus on building an audience. Accept that it will take time and just plan ahead with that. Another thing as well, and maybe why YouTube is maybe so popular, is the feedback and the feedback mechanisms. While feedback is always good, don't tunnel vision having good stats like high views, engagements, or clicks. Review the data on what your audience is saying and what they're critiquing you on, but don't take it personally, and don't make that the only focus for your content. So the third point that I have here, and this might be a little bit controversial, don't focus on fake personas or building content to show about how good you are. What do I mean by that? So I've noticed myself doing this quite a bit in the past, where I'd be scared to show my profile or show my stats, and I'd just hide it. And I'm not trying to like make myself out to be something that I'm not. I've never really cared about like censoring out my username or people looking at my stats. There is this kind of elitist belief that you have to be good at the game to be able to produce good content. Now, I would argue against that, but I'd argue for it as well. So I'm not going to lie, like anytime I come across a new YouTuber that I see, and if I can see their username, I'll look them up on BlitzStars and I'll check out how good they are maybe in the game for statistically. The goal for me right now, like I'm about 54%, 55% player, and I'm at the point now where I'm genuinely looking for good people who are good at the game so that I can learn from them. But because you're good at the game doesn't necessarily mean that you'll be showcasing the best things for a channel and to showcase, something that will build an audience. Being good at the game isn't the only thing that captures an audience. So this is the argument that I'm making, is that your experience with the game alone could actually be enough. And if you're creative and open enough to try new things, or talking or even thinking about new topics and talking about niche things, that can be important as well. I've always kind of presented my channel as, I'm just an average player, but there's lots of average players out there. There's lots of bad players out there. There's a few good, really, really good players out there as well. And I think it's very, very important to distinguish yourself within those brackets. Like, where do you stand? Like, how do you see yourself? And to actually be honest with yourself as well, because everybody who plays this game thinks they're better than they are. Also, just be someone who isn't afraid of showing some personality. I see this a lot, that people tend to kind of try and hide their real personality. Stop apologizing for opinions and just be yourself. There's so much of this online now where people will kind of apologize for the opinions that they have, and they have no problem sharing those opinions off the mic or off the camera. Another point under this topic is narration and commentary. It should be encouraged. So time and time again, I'm coming across more and more channels where they're just replay channels, and it's just a replay and nobody's adding any kind of narration or commentary. I think people should actually actively be encouraged to do that. Just embrace any kind of accents. Just embrace your insecurity about hearing your voice. And you're going to make mistakes. You are going to make mistakes. You're going to say the wrong word and you're going to make mistakes, but you have to accept that. What I'd also encourage, in the same point really, is just avoid AI or any kind of script reading programs, because I've seen quite a few clips on YouTube where it's somebody who's creating a video and they've got this AI script reader, and it sounds bad, and that like the voice inflections or the accent inflections just aren't included. I prefer to try and get to know somebody through their ability to actually add commentary. And the final point on this is really just, like I already said, make mistakes and don't be afraid to learn from them, because it's going to happen. Like I said, you're going to say the wrong word on something. Don't beat yourself up, and just learn from it and grow from it. So next point I'm going to make is, and this is tough because I tend to fall for this quite myself as well, but not on my channel, but for other conversations within the community, is don't fall for the drama. All right, there's always drama associated to the Blitz community. There always has been, there always will be. There's always some form of somebody just stirring up shit and just creating some stupid drama. If you're a YouTuber, I would argue that you shouldn't fall for it. You should, stick to your own lane. And yeah, just don't fall for it. Don't get sucked into it as well. The community as of late has been extremely divisive. And we've gotten to the point where it's gotten so low that we've got YouTubers rating other YouTubers. And I don't care if you know who I'm talking about. I don't give a shit. I'm just talking about the notions that somebody would go through to feel that they need to go out there and rate one YouTuber over another YouTuber. Like, it's genuinely pathetic that the community has dipped that low. Like I said, know your lane and just stick to it. The drama can, and usually is, it's always a trap. And content that's based on drama is crap content. It's bullshit. It gets clicks and views, but it's content based on something that's forgotten about very, very fast. And it's just so destructive and divisive for the community. So the point that I'm making there is just don't engage with it. It can be tempting. It can be super tempting. And I'm somebody who gets sucked into this quite a bit as well. But like I said, don't fall for it. Don't click, don't comment, don't engage with it. The fifth point I'll make is about building a community. Okay, so this is all about encouraging somebody to come back. Engage with your audience. Be humble and remain humble. No matter how big or small you are, if you stay humble, those are characteristics and values that people can relate to, and they'll come back to you again. Allow yourself to grow, but avoid having the ego. And that can be hard. I've seen people change as they get bigger, or they let their audience dictate what they think or how they need to behave. The stats don't always tell the story. So YouTube data can often be misleading. So you might see somebody with high subscriber count, but do you actually know that all those subscribers clicked on the latest video? Are they watching all that person's content? No. They could be inactive users. They might no longer be engaged in the Blitz community and just never subscribed to a YouTube channel or never stopped receiving that content. Not everyone will like your content. You need to accept that sometimes people who don't like you or don't like your content will actually still watch your content. How you engage with feedback or criticism will often show the kind of person that you are. And this is where I think branding is very important. So if you're going to put yourself out there on YouTube, odds are you're going to have some form of branding or brand management. Just know that you don't have to engage with everything, but the stuff you do engage with will often show your character. The last point in this is create connections, get active on social media, and present ways for people to contact you. But in saying this, also be aware of the issues with social media like phishing and scamming, and how people, I suppose, people's YouTube channels or people's content can become compromised or be threatened. The last point I'm going to make is about sharing your experience. So not a lot of YouTubers do this. Just be open. Share your experience based on your learnings. So a lot of YouTubers will commentate or they'll talk about something, but they won't explain very well what they're doing and why they're doing it. And that's what really makes good YouTubers good. Being able to share that and being open enough and mature enough to share that with your audience. Openly sharing how you do things, so both in the game and also how you create your content. Because when was the last time you came across somebody on YouTube where they shared, the tools that they were using, or, the way that they were recording? Many people don't share that information. Be aware of your personal journey and how people can relate and learn to it. So this is probably going to sound derogatory, but dumb things down. Explain things like you're talking to somebody who doesn't have a clue what you're talking about, and just make it easy for them to understand. I think that's super important, and it's such an underrated characteristic for people to have. Anyway, that's everything I've got to say today. If you're still watching and listening, thank you very much. Feel free to add a comment. Let me know what you think about this kind of content. If you like it or if you dislike it, I'll look at the stats. And yeah, hopefully I'll catch you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.